Hey guys, and welcome back to Homebrew Wednesday. This is number 2 for me. In my last homebrew we went over the dandelion wine that I had started and consequently racked into a secondary fermenter where it is fermenting beautifully, and well, it'll sit there for 5 or 6 weeks before I degas it and I clear it, and then we'll let it age in the bottle before we try it. Plan on getting that on video. I made it last year, it turned out wonderfully. Now I do have a confession to make. It's not Wednesday, it's actually about 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, so I'm not drinking a beer, but I am drinking an energy drink. Now the reason I'm making this on a Tuesday instead of Wednesday is I cheated a little bit, took a vacation day from work the other night, and one of my colleagues works at the plant with me, and I'm sure he doesn't want me to use his name on a video, so we'll just call him Steve. He said he wanted to save his vacation time for this summer so he can do things with the family, and he would love to call off, but he doesn't think he'd get the permission slip from the wifey. So, Steve, this energy drink's for you, and keep the faith, brother. Okay, now, he's also the same guy who told me why bother brewing your own beer or wine. If he wanted to have a beer, he could drive down the street and buy a case for 20 bucks. Now he's absolutely right, you can do that. And I'm not going to mention any names, but you know, we all know the nationwide famous macro brews, and sure, you can get a case of beer for $20. You get 24 cans of beer, but basically all it is beer. There's no color, there's very little flavor, no hop profile if you're a hop head, that kind of thing. And I told him the reason I homebrew, besides the whole hobby aspect of it, and now my wife can't call me an alcoholic, she has to call me a beer enthusiast. That's right, enthusiast. That I do it to save money. And for about the same amount that it costs for that 24 pack of beer, that case of beer, I can make 56 bottles. 56! That's 2 cases, a 6-pack, and 1 or 2 left over. Okay? But before we get into the actual brewing, and there's 4 different ways you can do it, ranging in price and the amount of time and effort that's needed, there's a few things you're going to need first. And that brings us to the topic of today's video. What do I need to brew my own beer? It's simple. You don't need a lot of equipment, and it costs a little bit, you know, to buy the equipment, but it lasts forever, and once you have it, and you can really turn out some great beer. So, first and foremost, what we need is a fermenting bucket. Okay? Alright. Now, this is the bucket that I use to ferment. Okay? It's an 8-gallon bucket, food-grade plastic, comes with a lid with a little seal around it, a hole in it for your airlock. Put your beer in, you pitch your yeast, put the lid on it, and good night, Irene. A few of the other things that you're going to need to brew your own beer. You're going to need an airlock. Now there's different types of airlocks you can get. This is just your standard 3-piece airlock. Okay? Goes on top of the bucket, like so. Okay? You're also going to need a racking cane and a siphon hose. Okay? Now you can use this for both beer and wine. All it does is you use this to transfer the liquids from one bucket into another bucket, your wine from a primary bucket into a carboy. Okay? And this comes with one of these. This is a bottling wand attachment, goes on the end of the hose. This whole thing fills up with beer, and you put this in the bottle. When it hits the bottom, the bottle fills up, and there you go. Okay? Now, there's 2 different types of bottles that you can get to bottle your beer. You can get your standard glass bottle, Okay? Alright? And these are cheaper than plastic bottles. Alright? But the savings, in my mind, aren't necessarily worth it. Because with glass bottles, you need one, a capper. Now, I'm sure this is a Red Baron capper, so to speak, or yeah, I think it's called the Red Baron capper. And you also need bottle caps. Okay, I get my caps in batches of 60. They're about $1.25 a piece, and they're single use, and you can't use them on twist-off bottles. Right? Okay. One of the other types of bottles that you can use, and oh, hold on just one second. Okay, sorry about that. Now the other type you can get are plastic bottles. Now obviously this isn't a beer bottle, it's only a soda bottle, but you get the general idea, right? They're plastic, they come with caps which are reusable, right? You wash both, you sterilize both, you fill up your beer, put the cap on nice and tight, shake back and forth a few times, you set it aside. The carbonation process takes 7 to 14 days. I'm sorry. Alright, now the good thing about the plastic bottles, besides not having to spend money on a capper and constantly worrying about running out of bottle caps, is you can squeeze the bottles to check for the level of carbonation. When the plastic is as hard as a glass bottle, it's fully carbonated and ready to drink. Okay, now some of the other things that you're going to need is an hydrometer to test the specific gravity or the amount of sugar that's in your whatever it is that you're making, and you're going to need a test tube. Okay, now I don't think that these are really necessary when you're making beer, unless you're making a specialty or a high gravity beer such as a barley wine, something that's like 8, 9, 10% alcohol, and you just really need to know. It is, however, indispensable in winemaking. One, it tells you how strong your wine is going to be, and two, it tells you when the wine is ready to be transferred from a primary into a secondary. And you can use it to know when the fermentation is done and you're ready to sterilize, stabilize, and bottle your wine. Okay, now that we've got all of the equipment that we need to start brewing our own home brew, alright, we need ways to keep it clean and, more importantly, to sanitize. Okay. Now the reason we sanitize is to ensure that all wild yeast, all germs, all bacteria on everything that touches whatever it is we're making are gone. That they're killed off, and there's no way that we can get an infected batch and waste an entire brew. Okay. Now as far as cleaning goes, you don't want to use dish soap. Dish soap has chemicals in it, sheeting action I think they call it, to prevent your glasses and all of your dishes to dry with spots. Okay, but it leaves a residue behind, and a residue that we don't want. So what I suggest is an oxygen-based cleaner. OxyClean works very well, alright, but you have to rinse it. Okay. It's just one scoop, alright, a tablespoon or a teaspoon in a gallon of warm water. Make sure you use a very soft sponge because you don't want to put scratches in your plastic. It cleans everything up. You rinse it off really well. Okay, if you don't feel like rinsing, alright, you can get something like this. This is called One Step. It's an oxygenating cleanser, just like OxyClean, but this you don't have to rinse off. 1 teaspoon, 1 gallon of water, clean everything up really well, dump it, let it drain, right? You're good to go. Now, sanitizing. Okay, you're going to need something to sanitize all of your equipment. Your hydrometer, your test tubes, the airlock, the fermenting bucket itself, any kind of spoons that you may use in the process, muslin bags, screening bags, grain bags, anything that touches your wort, as I said before, has to be sanitized. In a pinch, boiling water works. All right, I've never seen anything that can survive with 112 degree water poured over it. Alright, some other things you might want to use is you can make a very cheap sanitizer using bleach. Now, get the cheapest bleach that you can find. Alright, a couple of reasons for this. Alright, bleach does have a shelf life. And the older it gets, the less efficient that it is. Okay, and some of the more expensive bleaches also have other chemicals and ingredients put into it that we really don't want. All we want is just 100% pure, unadulterated bleach. And to make a sanitizing solution with bleach, it's 1 fluid ounce of bleach poured into my fermenting bucket, filled up to the 5-gallon mark with room temperature water, and then 1 fluid ounce of white vinegar. Okay, 1 minute contact time, and I hear it's no rinse, but just to err on the side of caution, since we are using bleach, rinse everything off very well. Okay, after everything is sanitized, naturally you lay it out on something like paper towels. Alright, the last thing you want to do is spend the time and effort to sanitize your equipment and then set it on a countertop that's full of germs. Okay, some other things you can use, a chemical called potassium metabisulfite, more commonly referred to as Camden tablets. That's a very effective sanitizer. It sanitizes or kills germs on contact. There's absolutely no waiting, alright, no contact time required, but you do have to rinse it off. I use potassium metabisulfite for all of my beer and wine bottles. If you don't want to rinse anything, you can also go out and get some of this. Now this is called iodophor. It's an iodine-based sanitizer. It's 1 fluid ounce for 5 gallons, or what I more commonly do is I use a 1/2 ounce for 2.5 gallons. I mix it up in the bucket, shake it up really well, make sure it contacts everything on the inside of the bucket. I take everything that I'm going to be using, spoons, airlocks, hydrometer, test tubes, my racking cane. I put everything in the bucket and I let it sit while I get the other things ready to make the brew, such as pots, pans, boiling waters, that kind of thing. Okay, and that's basically it. Okay, now once you start home brewing and you find out that you enjoy it and you think you're going to continue doing it, you can get away from the hassle of bottling with glass or plastic in its entirety by spending just a little extra money and picking up one of these. Okay, this is a Cornelius keg used by the soda manufacturers. It's as easy as can be. You wash the keg, you sanitize the keg. When the beer is done, you put it straight into the keg. Alright, get the beer nice and cold, force carbonate it, and you could be drinking beer the very same day if you really want to. Okay, with bottles you can't do that. Alright, once it's bottled, they do have to sit for 1 to 2 weeks. Alright, maybe 3 weeks depending on the temperature and the time of the year it is for it to get carbonated. Okay, well, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Alright, next week I'll show you the very first stage of beer making, extract beer from a pre-hopped can called Kit and Kilo. It's the easiest and cheapest way to get into home brewing, and a lot of people have negative things to say about kit beers. You're not going to win any awards with it, but in my own personal opinion, it tastes a whole lot better than the microbrews for about the same price, and it's a very easy way to get into the hobby. Okay, I hope you guys have had a good week thus far. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Alright? Take care, guys.